Hi, I'm Kevin Hirsch, a farmer and editor of Farm Credit Canada's Agri-Success magazine. With me at Ag Days here in Brandon is Kristjan Hebert of Hebert Grain Ventures, Fairlight, Saskatchewan. Kristjan, you've got a varied background, but you're an accounting background, farm business management background, a farmer, and what really caught people's interest is your presentation of the 5% rule. Just give us the theory. 5% doesn't sound like much to improve, to make that much of a difference in your bottom line. Why can 5% be a big deal?
Basically, the analogy I start with is a baseball analogy, right? A 300 batter versus a 250 batter is just one more hit every 20 at-bats. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you replicate it, over a season or over generations, it can really add up. So when you put the numbers to that on a base case of a canola farm, if you were to make a 5% improvement in yield, a 5% improvement in marketing, and a 5% decrease in costs, in theory that should only be a 15% improvement, right?
Yep.
But it's actually a 117% difference to your bottom line.
So when you bring it down to the bottom line,
Yep.
that makes a huge difference. That 5% 3 times over is 15%, but when you take it out to how much increase in profit, that becomes huge. How big is that in a typical farm then?
Well, the base case farm had a profit of $50 an acre, and the farm doing 3 things 5% better had $108.50. So, on a year they make double. Based on data I've seen, if you draw 50-mile pockets within Western Canada, there are a lot of farms within those where there'll be one farm making $100 an acre more than his peers. So the difference has huge magnitude.
What can you do to get 5% better yield? That isn't a heck of a lot. Go from 40 to 42 bushels an acre. That's doesn't seem like that's impossible.
Oh, and I think good relationships with your agronomist can really help, right? But things such as a better macro package. Have you ever used potash? Have you ever looked at it? Are you using the right blend of products together? Do you use seed treatments? How good is the germ on your seed? Have you looked at 1,000 kernel weight? I don't know how many things we just named, but 10 or 12 things to try, right?
What about the marketing side? Everybody likes to think they're doing the best job they can marketing, but also knowing that we're never doing it quite right.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing on marketing is education, right? How many people actually have the education to understand futures, options, cash contracts, basis contracts, the difference in when you roll your basis contract? I honestly think our biggest weakness in marketing is there isn't enough education by farmers. Marketing services can really help some guys. Some guys are born to be good marketers. The biggest thing probably is to have a plan, know your cost of production, and if you always lock in profits, it's really hard to go broke.
So on the cost side of the equation, it seems a little counterintuitive because we're talking about investing in more inputs, but inputs isn't the only thing on the cost side. There's how effectively they're placed, and there's also the whole fixed side of your cost equation.
Yeah, exactly. On inputs, I'm a huge proponent of using more inputs. It's a direct correlation to your gross margin in most cases. However, on the input side, small things like mechanical improvements like sectional control. On our farm, that was an 8% decrease in the use of inputs, no change in yield. What is our overlap difference on auto steer, right? 24-hour shifts because of auto steer. So we talk lots about we call it labor power machinery. So your depreciation, real depreciation, wages to third parties, fuel, custom work, leases, the cost to get it done. That number can vary by $100 an acre a farm. So the two farms could grow the exact same amount of bushels, sell it for the same price, and one neighbor would make $100 more than his peer simply because he's more efficient. The easiest question to ask is how many more acres could I farm with my exact same equipment line, plus or minus one human, right? It's the easiest way to find out if you're over-equipped.
And you're a big proponent of using accrual accounting, so you know what the heck you're doing on your farm financially.
Yeah, as I said in the presentation, I wish accountants, consultants, insurance agents, and bankers would force it upon agriculture. I think it would be the best change we could ever make, and I mean best to the point of the change that direct seeding made. That's how big it could be. The first 2 years are not that fun because nobody understands, but the one thing we talked about in there was, could you imagine if the discussion with your banker was not, can I borrow $1 million for land? It was, here's my financial statements, here's my debt to equity, I already know my debt service is great, what can you offer me when I want to buy this land? It completely changes the partnership that you have with people.
Kristjan, great visiting with you. Kristjan Hebert, Kevin Hirsch at Ag Days here in Brandon.